OneShot World Machine Edition is an expanded and polished upgrade of the excellent RPG Maker game. It wormed its way under my skin and poked a million holes in my heart, just like its PC version did before it. There is no combat, only puzzles and great dialogue. Removing yourself from the story mid-playthrough is akin to waking up from a good dream and feeling like you've just been disconnected from something deeply personal and profound. The main character, Niko, has a naive optimism in a cold mechanical world that isn't just welcome, it's sorely needed for the defeated citizens of this place. Answers aren't given in abundance here, and when they are, they usually come with a big caveat or devastating cost. Despite having seen this journey beginning to end prior to my time with the World Machine Edition, there were a couple of curveballs the console version of OneShot threw at me that caught me off guard. I played this on the Switch and was surprised at the ways the developers altered the game to fit its new environment. I loved my time with it, yet despite that, there is something lost in this version of the game, a magical component that cannot be replicated outside of its original release. OneShot having a console port with a subheader for the game's name raises some very obvious and interesting questions right away, like what could that new content be and does it make it worth playing through again? But the biggest question on everyone's mind is how does World Machine Edition handle the fourth wall breaks? And you know the answer within 5 seconds of starting up the game. Instead of seeing Niko wake up in this strange new home immediately, you're greeted with a fictional desktop that functions outside of the storyline. This will act as your one-stop shop for all meta progression, narrative, and dialogue. It's a cute workaround that the developers used to its full advantage. I actually loved how the components outside of the game were more consistent with its theme. The fourth wall breaks on PC are still fantastic, but seeing OneShot in a new style where the developers are able to make dialogue, windows, and aesthetics feel like a part of the world Niko inhabits was really special. There were even little notes from the developers commenting on streamers and the like. Some might call this immersion breaking, but I really appreciate humor in a game like this considering how dark it can get. The story itself remains largely recognizable with new dialogue to reflect some of the added features. There are codex entries, desktop wallpapers, and even theme colors for your desktop UI that can be found in the world. Seeing Niko comment on these things is neat, but the main entree remains the poignant and heart-shifting narrative that we're all accustomed to. Waking up in the strange home, being at odds with the meta-computer, and roaming the countryside trying to piece together items, it's all still here, and it was surprisingly satisfying to not get as hopelessly lost and confused as I did the first time I played. Also, as you might have been able to tell from the footage, you can move diagonally now. It's such a small change and it was never needed, but I can't tell you enough how much smoother and nicer it was to play because of it. The biggest hurdle that World Machine has isn't even the fourth wall breaks being rearranged. It's that it's not really the type of game that lends itself to replayability. Provided it's your first time playing, that's not an issue obviously, but I imagine a good chunk of players eyeing this thing will be PC players that are very familiar with the plot. There's no combat to try different builds with or anything like that. Your desire to see the narrative again is going to determine if it's worth a replay. Obviously you can try and get different endings, but provided you're a huge OneShot fan already, you'll have likely done that all a while ago. But to answer the question implied at the beginning of this video, is OneShot worth playing on consoles? Well, like I said, it depends on whether you're fine with going through a story again, even if you know all of its twists and story beats. To me, it was worth making the trek with Niko again because I still remember that stranglehold I felt the first time I experienced some of this game's darker moments, and I knew that they would still hit very hard for me. But provided someone wants to get into OneShot for the first time, provided they want to see Niko's adventures start to finish on their initial playthrough, would I recommend they play the World Machine Edition first? I would not. For as clever as the workarounds are, and for all the cool extras they've added, it still doesn't beat that initial feeling of seeing the really neat fourth wall breaks on PC. I don't think someone who's introduced to the game through consoles will walk away feeling much differently about the story itself, but PC is certainly the better format. The idea of looking into a world that isn't yours and seeing solutions known only to you is not only practically what happens in OneShot, it's a thematic part of the story. The two are intertwined, and any compromise to the purity of the meta mechanics dampens the experience in a way. Seeing the room from the beginning of the game with the sun pouring through the window still leaves me with a deep and empty sadness I've seldom felt in any movie or video game I've played. No matter how good you are as an author, you cannot replace the narrative advantage of spending a lot of time with a character and letting that connection grow naturally. If you're familiar with the game, you know that OneShot uses that premise to rip your heart out. This game will move you. This is true no matter what way you're playing, and no omission of computer tricks, can change that. And I hope that the same thing is true for the fan sequel coming out later this year, One Shot Aftermath, which has its own page on Steam no less. I'll be covering this one, so make sure you remind yourself to check it out by subscribing. I would recommend World Machine Edition without a moment's hesitation if you're looking to go through this adventure again. Even if you aren't a huge one-shot fan, seeing the new art, dialogue, and cute theming centered around the fictional computer is a really neat way to repackage one of my favorite RPG Maker games, and it honestly feels like a celebration of itself. Being able to scroll through the music player, friends gallery, and wallpapers is a great diversion from the main game. Should you treat One Shot like a timeless movie that's so good you give it regular rewatches, World Machine is a very great way to re-experience it.